Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chuck Terry again with Crescent Valiani. Hey, today we're going to talk about the contouring tool or insert contour that the Valiani software has in the Create program. This tool, in my opinion, is a extremely powerful tool that allows you to create some very, very unique one-off items that you really couldn't do in other programs unless you go into full-blown illustration programs like CorelDRAW and Illustrator. But nevertheless, Valiani has a tool built into the program so that you don't necessarily have to go into Illustrator or CorelDRAW or any other special tracing program and what have you. So today we're going to talk about the contouring option in the Valiani software. And I've got three objects up here of different shapes, different figures, and what have you that I am going to contour. Now, the first shape that I've got here is a rectangle. This rectangle is a template that came from over here under my favorites. And any template that we have selected, we can use the contour option. Okay. Now we also have a clip art, and the clip art comes from the Openings tab, clip art, insert clip art. Okay. So any clip art or any template, any clip art, or even any text that we have, we can contour any shape, any figure. And that's what's so beautiful about this particular tool that Valiani has built into the program. So I want to describe and go through a little bit and just explain how it works and what the functions are. The contour, the insert contour, is to create a series of concentric shapes with the common centers. So what does that mean? Well, if I take my rectangle here and I want to create a concentric shape around that rectangle, I would come down here to Insert Contour. When I click on that, it's going to give me some options over here that I can work with. So I have a reveal or an offset, however you want to label it. Valiani has labeled it a reveal. Could be concentric shape, how far, distance, whatnot. And then they have a mode, which is global or single. We'll talk about that in a little bit further on in the video. And then the style is how you want that concentric shape to appear. And what they have is they have full, square, or rounded. Full indicates that it's going to give you the exact same shape, just offset by whatever our reveal is, and give you the exact same shape. Square is going to chamfer the corners or give us a notched corner. Okay, and then rounded will give us a rounded corners. So we'll go through those and show you all the different aspects on that. But for right now, I'm just going to click full. I have my reveal set to 1/4 inch. And the Valiani program automatically assumes that you want to put the next object that you're shaping in up a layer. And in some cases that's good. In some cases you may want to override the default and put it on a different layer. For me, when I'm using the Concentric tool, I'm really getting into a lot of complex designs and layouts. So I find it best to have everything just set to layer 1. Then when I have everything laid out the way that I want, I can go ahead and move my objects to the proper layers. Now the next thing it's going to ask for is, what type of plotting process do you want? Normal cut? Reverse cut? Do you want a V-groove? Do you want it to be decor, which is the pen tool? Do you want to have deboss, which is going to use the violet head to emboss around the mat board? For now, we're just going to stick with the normal cut. So again, I've got a 1/4 inch reveal, global, single. Those two modes in this particular example don't factor in at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on global. And then the style I'm going to have is full. So it's going to give me an exact replica, just offset a distance away from my selected shape. So I'm going to click the OK button. Oh, excuse me. And then also what type of head do you want to work with? So you can click on the head type, choose different heads to work with on how you want the process to be cut. Okay, so we'll just leave it on the green head, normal cut, layer 1. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me another rectangle. Now, unlike using layers over here when you're working in a template, the Concentric tool, the Insert Contour tool, basically gives us an independent object not tied to the template like it would be if I used layers. Again, I'll dive into that a little bit more later on. But you can see now that this rectangle that I have here ended up being 5.5 by 3.5. Okay, now that's an exact shape of the rectangle, just offset by a 1/4 inch all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and delete that object. We're going to click back onto the main rectangle, and we're going to come into the Insert Contour option again. This time, I'm going to leave everything the same with the exception of the style. Now, this time I'm going to choose square, put it on layer 1, normal cut, 40 degree. Click OK. And then when I click off of it, you can see that I have squared off corners or chamfered corners. Okay. So in some cases, you may want to have a different look on that layer or on that contoured shape, or you may want to just go ahead and leave it as it is in full and just replicate the exact same shape that you have before, just a little bit bigger. So this time I'm going to click on round, put it on layer 1, click OK, and then when I zoom in on that, you can see that I have nice rounded corners. Okay. Now, the problem with using chamfered corners or rounded corners, you have no control over the size. The Valiani software is going to automatically dictate what size radius or what size chamfer it's going to apply. So in some cases, you may not want to use those different options. You may want to just go ahead and use the full. Okay, so let's go back to our template here. And let me talk a little bit about the layering, and then we'll jump back into the contour with these other objects. So when I'm working with the template windows, any of the templates that I choose, I have control over how many layers deep I want it to go. With the Valiani and the VStudio software, layer 1 is always closest to your artwork. And then we build up from there. So we can go layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, so on and so forth. And we can also control the reveal for each layer. Okay. Now, because I'm using the layering option with the template, I can move this object around and it's going to stay bound together. They're not separate, independent objects. It's one object bound together based off of the rules that Valiani has set forth in the software. Okay, so now that's different than a contour. It will not tie itself or bind itself to the object that you're outlining or contouring. Okay, it's going to be an independent object that is not tied to the original object that you contoured. Okay, now there's some advantages to that, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. But with this, I can adjust the layers how I want. If I wanted to come back over here, move this to layer 2, so be it. I could do so. If I wanted to change the cut type here, I can change the cut type or the plotting process. I can also change the head type and have full control over it, and it's only going to affect that outer concentric shape and not the inner concentric shape. So the inner one, it's its own object. Layer 1, normal cut. Again, if I move it around, it's not going to move the contoured or concentric shape with it because it's independent. Okay. Now, with clip art and text, you do not have any control over being able to add a layer to it like you would a normal template. So if I click on this clip art here, excuse me, and I want to make 2 layers out of it, if I come over here to my layer options, I can't click layer 2, I can't click layer 3 or 4 or 5. It won't let me add a layer to it. And that's just based off of the rules that are built into the software. So if I wanted to have a heart that's 2, 3, 4 layers deep, I would essentially just use the contour option. So I'm going to click on Insert Contour, 1/4 inch. Global single is fine for now. Again, we'll come back to that in just a bit. Full, do I want to have squared corner, rounded corners? We're going to go ahead and leave it on full. And I'm going to put it on layer 1. Normal cut, 40 degree. So again, I get this nice outline around that heart, and I can adjust the layers as desired. So I can just simply click in the layer box, tell it I want to set layer 2, or I want to change it to the pen tool. I can set it to the pen tool or the debossing tool. So I have all those controls at my fingertips here. Okay. Now, why would you need to use the contour tool for creating a shape that matches the exact centers to the one that you're replicating? Well, if I copy and pasted this opening and I placed it right here in the middle, I'm just going to make this easy on us here, or easy on myself here. Click that, center it. Take this object, click here, center it. Okay, so I've got 2 objects laying right on top of each other. Now, if I come over here and I want to adjust that, and I'd say, okay, I want to make that 3.5 inches, I can do so, but if you notice, you do not get the exact same shape. It's a little thinner through here, a little wider through here, so that is not a concentric shape. The centers are not the same. Therefore, we use the concentric tool to give us an exact outline of the shape so that it gives us a good concentric center around the object and it matches. Okay, so again, these 2 are not tied together. I can move this object to layer 2. I can select those 2 objects, click on the inside, hold the control key down, click on the outer rectangle, and I can group them, and then they become one object, and I can move them around without any fear of interfering with changing the offsets or the outline around it. Okay, so now let's go down to our text, our fonts. Okay, this particular font, it is Microsoft Himalaya any font, true type font you can work with. You can do this with any font, be it a true type font or a Valiani font or Valiani single line font. Now, using the contour tool for single line fonts doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so I would shy away from using it for that particular purpose. But anything that's got a body to it, any temp or any clip art, or excuse me, any text that has a body to it, not just the skeleton, but the body of the font is fully intact, we're going to have some internals and some externals. We do have control over where we want to place the internals. If I wanted to put the internal here, which is the inside portion of the letter B and the letter A, leave those on layer 1. Maybe I would move this object, the externals, which are the outer parts of the body of the letter, move that to layer 2. I have that option. Well, what if I wanted to have 3 layers? Well, if I come over here to my layering, I don't have that option at my fingertips. It won't let me use the layering. So I would then go to my contour and insert a contour. I want to go 1/4 inch, global, full, and I'm going to push it up to layer 3. Now, in this particular instance, global is going to become very relevant. Okay, so I'm going to show you what global and single do, but for now, global is very relevant for what I'm working on right now. I've got a 1/4 inch reveal. I'm going to use the style as full. I'm going to put the objects onto layer 3, normal cut, 40 degree, and call it OK. Okay, so now if I zoom in on here, you're going to be able to see where the letter A actually overlapped into the letter B, and the letter B overlapped into the letter C, and where they overlapped or intersected, the global option automatically removed the overlap and the intersections. So now you have an object that is now just one single path. So if I change my cut type here, let's go to decor, I can see that it's going to draw around, not come down here, but stop and work all the way around. So I've got a perimeter outlining my letters. Okay, so that's what global does for us. Now let me undo this. Okay, now I'm going to come back to my text, and this time I'm going to choose single. Okay, put it on layer 3 again, click OK, undo, layer 3, let's go single, full style, let's go 0.375 this time, and click OK, and the program is leaving some junk behind. Okay, so let me back up here just a second, undo. Okay, I have this text not split apart yet, so I'm going to come over here, and we'll talk about text in a different video and how to split and when to convert to different V000 and whatnot. But for now, I'm going to click split text. Now each one of these objects are independent from each other. So when I go in and I click on insert contour, put it on global, full, layer 3, I'm going to change that to single, click OK. If I zoom in on this, you can see that now the letter A and the letter B are overlapping or intersecting, and the program did not get rid of that extra overlap, so it's going to run into the other objects. So if I use the global option, it's going to automatically tie the objects together and remove any of the intersections that might have occurred. Okay, so again, just to recap, we've got our text. When they're split apart and you want to contour them, you would use the, depending on the offsets, you would use the contour tool. Now I'm going to take these objects right here real quickly and show you a little example. So I'm going to tell it I want it to be a 1/2 inch apart. Okay. And it's not working for me here. Oh, I've got it. Sorry. When I hit the undo, it brought it back to being tied together. So I'm going to select those 3 objects. I'm going to come down here and click on 0.5 for my spacing. And it's going to adjust the space apart. Maybe I want to go 1 inch. Okay. And then center it back up horizontally. So now this time I've got a pretty big gap between each character. So if I select my object and I go to Insert Contour, if my reveal isn't large enough to reach to another object, then it won't overlap and remove the extra outlines. It will just simply outline it. Okay, so you can see, because there wasn't enough space, or there was too much space between it, it just outlined them and gave me an outline for each individual character, similar to what you would get if you were using the single as opposed to the global. So when you're using the global, you have to consider how far apart the objects are from one another, and make sure that if you want to create that outline, you've got a large enough reveal that it will overlap and intersect with the new object. So let's go 0.625, click OK, and now you can see that it's left a fairly large outline around there, and because they were overlapping each other, the program automatically outlined it and removed all the intersections. Now, yes, that does not look very pretty, but I want to show you and point out another aspect that's built into the program that we have control over. So this outline or contoured shape that we've got in here, it's left some erroneous objects behind based off of the calculations that it was given and based off of what I told it to do. So you've got these little teeny pieces here, this little piece here. Maybe you like the outline, how it came out and what it looks like, but you want to get rid of that extra junk that's left behind. So to do that, you just simply right click on the object and you go to Explode Template. When you explode the template, then it allows you to select the independent erroneous objects that have been created, and you just simply select it and delete it. So click on there and then hit the delete key on the keyboard, or you can hit the delete key on in the software. Okay, so that's basically what the contour tool does for us. Now I want to go a little bit further into some design technique and show you how to apply some of these outline contour options into your program. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the objects that I've got here. Actually, it's best to go File, New. Okay, then I'm going to start back at my basic shape. So I'm going to insert a rectangle. Very simple, very basic, nothing, no frills, no thrills here. And then I'm going to insert another rectangle, and let's make this rectangle, let's go 2 by 2. Okay, now I'm going to do copy, paste, 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 and I've got 4 objects now. So I'm going to select those objects. I'm going to come over here into my arrangement tools, or my arrangement tab, go to my alignment. Now I want to align these centers vertically. So boop. Now all the centers are lined up vertically. Now I want a space between them. Let's go 1/4 of an inch. Let's go 0.25. Okay, so now I've got 4 independent objects. 4 independent objects that are evenly spaced 1/4 inch apart. I'm going to take those guys and drag it down to the lower corner here, and I want to contour all 4 of those objects. And what I want to do is I want to use that contoured object as a construction point. What do I mean by that? I mean that I want to use it so that I can keep a portion of the map board and maybe notch out this corner and have a nice little ribbon going around the object. So I'm going to select these 4 objects. I'm going to go into Insert Contour. Now we know that we've got a 1/4 inch space between them vertically. So we should be okay. We should see some intersection, but let's go ahead and test this theory out. I'm going to leave it on Global, Full, Layer 1, and I'm going to click OK. Okay, so what I ended up with was one solid rectangle. Okay, that was evenly shaped around the 4 rectangles that I have here. Now that is an option where the objects all tied together because they were overlapping enough, and now I can use that option to go ahead and go into our shaping tools and work with those. Now I'm going to go into more detail about the shaping tools in a different video, but for now I'm going to select this contoured rectangle that I've created, and I'm going to hold the Control key down. So I've got it selected. I'm going to hold the Control key down, and I'm going to click on the larger rectangle, and I'm going to use my contour or my shaping tools under the Advanced tab to shape the object into one another. Again, I'll go into more detail about that later on in a different video. But I'm going to do trim bottom, and what that did was it created a little bit wider white line along that edge, and so it took this contoured object that I'm using as a construction point to essentially give me a nice little ribbon on the edge of the board. So without having to go into using corners and modifying and manipulating the different corners, I can get a nice even border all the way around, and then once I'm finished using my object for my construction point, all I have to do is delete it, and then I'm set and ready to go. So now let's undo that again. Okay. Now I want to show it to you in wireframe mode so you can see where I have some intersections. So if I've got my large rectangle selected, you can see the yellow going through on this lower right corner and coming out in this upper left corner. So I'm going to hold the Control key down again, and I'm going to select the internal or the smaller construction point that I've got selected here. I'm going to trim the bottom, and then you can see that this object is still there. All you do is delete it, and you're done with. You don't need to do anything else to it. Okay? So the contour tool has a lot of different features. Those were just basic template windows. If I wanted to insert a clip art into the image and I wanted to bring those in, insert a clip art. Let's go to the heart. I'm going to go over here and size the heart. Let's go to 3 inches. I'm going to drag that down here to the corner here. And I'm going to use my contour tool for my template window, even though I'm going to ultimately have a double mat. I'm not going to use my layers. I'm going to use my contour. So I'm going to click Insert Contour, 1/4 inch reveal, global is fine, full is fine. I'm going to put it on layer 1, normal cut, 40 degree. Okay, so now I've got 2 rectangles. Ultimately, this is going to end up being a double mat. Now, I want to also contour my heart. So let's take the contour tool, 1/4 inch, global, full, layer 1, normal cut, 40 degree, perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to take and go into wireframe mode so you can see this. Again, this is probably getting a little bit into much for the trimming and shaping tools, but in essence, I'm using the contour tool here to create these objects. So I'm going to select these 2 objects here, trim bottom. Now you can see that trimming the bottom, it came up and around, and that portion of the heart is now trimmed into the lower rectangle, the smaller rectangle, and the heart that I use for my contour or my construction point, it's still fully intact. So now the next thing I want to do is come over here to select my next opening, and then I'm going to merge those 2 together. So now you can see that I no longer have any intersections here, and I can go ahead and layer the objects the way that I need to. So this object needs to move up a layer to layer 2, and then if I go back to my wireframe mode, you can see that I've got a nice looking layout here. And if I zoom in really close here, I can see there's a little garbage left in here. Okay, so what does that mean? That means I need to click on my inner shape here, right click, explode, and then click on that little object right there. It'll let me. Okay, select it, delete it. Now that little erroneous object is no longer in there. So the contour tool is really nice and really beneficial when you are working with trying to make very unique projects and shape objects together. Contour anything from a template to a clip art to text, and then from there you can use portions of it to use for construction points where you can actually build different shapes, different objects to really customize the look of the piece for your customers. Again, I'm going to make some more videos for the shaping tools and go into that a little bit more in depth, but with the contour tool, hopefully that gives you a little bit of information about how to utilize that tool and what practices you can apply into your day-to-day work. So appreciate it very much. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.